right? Movement, you know, working with your hands and stuff, doing all sorts of different things that we're used to doing. Most people are just used to holding a tight leash and keeping it tight,
and that's
right?
what me and Keenan do to
that's
keep
what I
him
do,
in,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's always tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so guys, it's hard, it's weird to be now not having to do that sort of thing, right? So your default. So really what I tell people is like this left hand here is like barely doing anything this whole time. The right hand is just holding on to it. You can keep it up here, you keep it down here. Left hand should be nice and relaxed. When I'm walking, right now, loose, 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 and then tighten up and pop. Good, now we're walking, right? And now this is doing nothing. Doing nothing, right? Good. Now this is just taking the slack out, right? So we're going to his foot, turning, doing nothing, nothing. Good. If I want, I'm going to use this hand to pop the leash though. Good. And see how when I do that, see how like I'm kind of like walking backwards, right? Backwards, backwards, backwards.
Yeah.
But that might be something you can try too if that makes it a little easier for you, right? And I can turn into them. Really, this hand though is doing nothing, right? Unless I need to use this hand to actually correct, right? Like right there, right there, and that's just like a.
He's
Just,
not coming when we turn.
pardon?
Is it just kind of to show him that he has to move?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like if you don't turn with me, you're not avoiding the correction, basically, right? So he's learning here that it's in his best interest to turn with me to avoid the correction, right? So you just have to be careful that you're not like towing him around the corner. So if I walk on the corner like this,
Right.
see it causes a lot of and that's kind of what a lot of people do, right? And it causes the dog a lot of stress because they can't shut it off, and they're trying but they can't, right? So you just want to watch that when I turn. He's here. Oh, okay. Good. Now when I turn, that leash is almost just loose that whole time, right? Like you can play with it, right? Like keep that leash all totally extended, and then
Just until he doesn't.
right there, right? Because he was not focused. So pop on the leash, and then that's it. Good job, right? Good job. Good. You just throw in some perfection. Really, there's not a huge difference between doing it and without it. And then when we stop, this sit is right here in this area too. Okay? So take the leash back. I'm going to walk you through that. Just do your best. Okay? We've got, like I said, we're taking some video here too, so you can watch that back. Okay?
Okay, so
Left side, nice and relaxed with that left hand. Just keep that right. I wouldn't wrap it around your arm like that. Just kind of keep it bundled up in that right hand if you can. And then keep that left hand nice and loose. Just say no and then pop on that leash to correct that. Perfect. And then you
So
nice and relaxed.
relax like this.
Left hand nice and relaxed on the leash. Let that leash just slide through that hand. Take a turn and pop the leash right there. Good. And then release it. A little better.
Is it better to do this?
Keep that arm down.
Down?
Yeah, keep the arm, yep, exactly. And then that was much better there too. That was really good, actually. Yeah, I try to keep the arm down, and I almost like turn the arm in the direction I want to correct the dogs. Just like that. Exactly like that. That's beautiful. Nice. Very well done. Very well done. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, that's good. And then there's a little pop right there if you need to. But that's good. You don't. Sorry. Just watch the timing, right? You want to pop the leash when you know he's not focused, right?
Yeah.
And keep those leash pops really kind of like quick, right? It should just sound like on and then off. You don't want it to sound like it's tightening up and then staying tight and then releasing. You'll really hear the difference in that articulation. That's better. That's good. When you're doing this too, if you see that left hand, like really just use 2 fingers on that left hand instead. There you go.
Very loose.
Yeah, that'll make it more like a wrist motion instead of a full arm swing. Take that turn and then give a little pop with that leash. Perfect. There you go.
You almost got it. Can you want to try?
No, you're doing really good now. No, this is good. Yeah, you keep going. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to introduce something new here. So go that way, come back around. Cool. Now, what you're going to do is slide that leash through your left hand so he's closer to you. Bring him into you. Tell him to sit.
Sit.
Pull gentle upward. Oh, there you go. Nice. Perfect. He really does sit well. Say good boy and praise him. Good. Okay, so there's tell him sit again. Perfect. That was really nice. Yeah, he sits right away when he's on. Tell him that. That's perfect. Say good. Give him a small pet. You see the difference there, how your affection and stuff can cause you to kind of break those commands when you don't want to.
Should we just good?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish and like how he responds to it and how you're doing it. So typically, like I would say the kind of affection you gave there where you got excited for the end of a lesson, when it's like we're done our walk, we're back to us, good job buddy, let's get excited, let's party kind of thing, right? But right now, if you want him to, he sits, good boy, little pat on the head, And then if he gets up, you would do exactly what you did, where you would I would say no, then I would say sit and apply that little bit of a correction on the collar, which I'll show you next. Okay, so let me steal that leash from you. That was really, really good.
That's crazy though how like your body language can affect it so much. Because me and my mom get like so pumped like for him.
That's part of it, right?
Probably
And it's like there's a time and a place for that stuff, but I think owners spend a lot of time, especially with these breeds, especially with puppies, of getting excited, reinforcing the excitement. So it's like the puppy's excited to see you, you're super excited to see the puppy, and now the puppy like associates your presence with excitement. Whereas we want to kind of reverse that to the association with calmness. And same thing with obedience. And this is where I think a lot of people mess up with like those puppy classes and stuff like that. Is a lot of what we're training in those classes is training excite. It's like sit, yeah, good job, more. The dogs are staying pumped up the whole time. And their commands and their interactions with working with you are associated with being excited and aroused and even worked up to some extent. Whereas this stuff that we're doing now is teaching him that it's actually kind of more about being calm and collected and focused, right? And he's able to do that. So if I want to teach a sit using this leash pressure concept as well, it's the same thing. It's upward pressure now, so the pressure goes straight up, the butt goes straight down. We typically will say our command as well. He knows sit pretty good, so I'm not too concerned with this. But if we want to add compliance to it, like let's say we're sitting in we're standing in line at like a store or something. There's this option right here where the dog is standing there sniffing things, trying to pull over towards the people behind you and in front of you. Or there's the other option where you stop and you get the dog to sit, right? A lot of dogs, like I'm sure with him, if you went into a pet store and tried to tell him to sit, it's probably going to be a bit distracted. You're going to say sit, put a treat, flash in front of you, whatever. And you want to make it really easy to, again, control the dog and communicate with him with that leash. If I want him to sit, I'm going to say, hey, sit, release the pressure. We're using that leash now to gain compliance basically and show them that when we say sit, if you don't immediately sit, there's some way for us to get that, to enforce that sit, right? And ultimately add a correction as well. Because if he gets up right now, let's say a dog walks past or a scooter goes by or something and he gets up, I can now say no, add upward pressure, correct him, and tell him to sit again, right? So I can add a bit of a consequence for breaking the command. And controlling the impulse is really what that comes down to, right? It's like if you're impulsive enough to get out of the sit, I can say no, correct it, and bring you back into that sit again, right? And that's going to be especially with those really fast moving things, right? Fast moving objects and stuff. Is he pretty ball, like toy moving and stuff, like ball moving?
Yeah, yes and no.
He'll play.
He'll play, but he's
He can get bored of it though.
yeah.
Of course, yeah. I'm just kind of trying to think of something that might be a little bit more of a bigger distraction for him, other than something like looking at something like that.
A kid running or someone.
That's pretty intense, though, right? That's like a
Yeah,
high
I
level
guess.
distraction for him. I would want to introduce the concept of correcting this stuff with like a lower level of distraction. So if I flip the ball, sit. Good. Now, good, right? Now, good. Now we can start to reward him for not breaking that obedience, right? Breaking those commands. You're like, I don't want that. Yeah. Good. So that alone, right? Something as simple as that, right? Like I just take a ball, I roll it, and like, oh, that's for me. That's the impulse control stuff we're talking about, right? It's no different. Like let's replace that with a small child riding around a bike. It's the same thing. It's I see it, I lock onto it, and then I just have to chase it, right? So I like to teach that stuff with things like balls and stuff in these situations, where we could teach the dog that, like especially through a command, like if I say sit, right? Sit, and I take this and I roll it. Good. He's got to be a little bit more. He's got to be a little bit more impulsive. Right? He has to practice that impulse control, right? Good. You see, he leaned forward a bit. And he's like, maybe I want it, and I say no, and I correct if he moves, right? No. Sit. Same thing if he gets up. I say no, and then I add my correction, and I say sit. That correction right now is just like a pop, pop, and he puts the butt right back down. He goes up, I say no, pop, pop upwards, and the butt goes back down, and that's what we praise, right?
Why is he whistling right now? Like, do you think it's because he's restless? Or like,
Yeah,
what is
restless is a good word for it, right? He's like, he doesn't, so I'm telling him to sit still. He wants to be over with you guys. He wants to be moving around and stuff like that. Sniffing, stuff like that, right? Just
Stuff
something.
that was already done.
Yeah, he's used to just keeping his brain kind of occupied, right? You'll see that too. Like I saw while he was over there with you too, where he was just standing there kind of thing. Yeah, just he wants to go do something, and we're not letting him do that right now. He wants to just be sleeping around or running around. That will fade once he realizes what these expectations are, right? Good job. You'll see him start to self-regulate, relax a bit. He'll lay down even, right? And then at those moments, I would say good and warrior. Okay? Good. So again, let's have you take the leash here. Whoever wants to walk him back and forth up and down the driveway again. Say no, little correction there. Same thing, right? A little pop on the leash. Pop outwards. Though.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect. Go ahead and walk him up and down the driveway. Throw in a couple of those stops with sits in there too, okay? You're just gonna come to a stop, say sit, and gently apply that pressure on the leash, keeping him beside you, okay? Good. Turn away. Good.
Sit.
Cool.
So how to get him
Okay,
to
so
my side?
what I would actually do here, I would reset and make that more successful for yourself. The way I would keep that successful is by, when you come to a stop, bring that leash up in your left hand so it's already kind of, so he can't go anywhere
Okay.
past this, because there you kind of stopped and he ran 4 feet ahead.
Fast, yeah.
He was, yeah, and you stopped fast too. So slow down, apply your leash like a brake by pulling gently upwards, and then come to it. Yeah, there you now stop. Perfect, that was much better. Good boy. Now say no, no, good, there you go. Now say good and pat him on the head. That's really like what that is there. Is it's not so much because you weren't that excited you got up too. It's just he needs to learn that when you say good and pat him, it's not time to go screw off and do your thing, right? It still means you're still working, right?
Yeah.
He's got kind of that short attention span. He's like, you know, I did it, now let me go on to my thing, right?
Yeah, he does.
And you just need to build this endurance. Say nope, give a little pop, perfect. That's where you can introduce that nope there, is when his mind or his nose starts to wander, or he starts to wander off to the side.
Yeah.
Say nope, give a little pop and bring him back in. That'd be nice, yeah, especially
Sit.
a lot of times, like with these
Good.
breeds especially, I tell people what we're gonna move on to next is going in and out of this doorway here. I'm just gonna
Okay.
shut this off so I can keep on the time.